Warner Brothers' recent Joker movie doesn't seem like the kind of film that would work with a sequel. After all, much of what made this film resonate with audiences was the shocking origins of Arthur Fleck becoming the Joker, which added a new tragic level to the Joker's story that we rarely see on the big screen. If you tell any story with this Joker beyond that, Arthur Fleck kinda loses track of that identity that made him distinctive from other Jokers. However, Joaquin Phoenix has expressed interest in returning to this role for a sequel, which is very uncharacteristic from Joaquin Phoenix. Now, personally, I'm conflicted. I don't think there is much you can do with a Joker sequel. But at the same time, I would love to see more of Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. Is a performance enough to justify an entire film's existence? Well, that's up to you. That's fully subjective. But after some intense thinking time and brainstorming, I feel like I've come up with a good solution as to how we can see more of Joaquin Phoenix's Joker without doing an outright Joker sequel. And I think the answer to this is not only hiding under the noses of the Warner Brothers executives, it's also right under your nose too. Many of us flock to theaters to see the Joker movie to hear the Joker's side of his story, why he is the way he is. And a lot of people walked out of that movie saying, this guy actually makes a lot of sense. His issues were there, clear as day, and yet society treated him like an outcast. So what the hell were they expecting? Of course Arthur was going to take his revenge on the world in some way, and all while doing that, the film explored the mind of Arthur Fleck, and a lot of people walked out of this movie saying it's a beautiful film, it's a work of art, it's a masterpiece. And a big part of what made this film was that it's all told from the perspective of Arthur Fleck. It's his story, and he's not a reliable narrator. So, if you're walking away from hearing the Joker tell you his own backstory saying what a beautiful mind he has and how he's a work of art, you know who you sound like? Harley Quinn. Joker presented us with a character we could kinda get behind and root for, and unraveled him in front of us and turned him into a violent sociopath. You can't hit those same notes with a direct sequel to Joker, but you can do it with Joaquin Phoenix back in the role of the Joker, by utilizing Harley Quinn. Now, I know what a lot of people that enjoy Joker are thinking is, why do we want to see Harley Quinn come and ruin this universe as well? Warner Brothers films like Suicide Squad and Birds of Prey will have an entirely different appeal and target audience to that of Joker, so why would you cross them over? Well, it just goes to show how well the Joker movie distracted you from the big, sparkly, tattooed alligator in the room. A reminder, the last time we saw the Joker in theaters before this film was Suicide Squad. If the Joker can traverse genres like that, Harley Quinn can too. Now look, one argument against this idea would be that Harley Quinn has an established origin story that we've seen adapted in a number of different ways. We've got the Mad Love TV episode. We've got the graphic novel adaptation of Mad Love. We've got her New 52 origins. We've seen her origins told in the video game Arkham Origins. Her origins were touched upon in Suicide Squad. Why would we necessarily want to see another origin story for Harley Quinn? Well, for starters, I think it's about dang time we got this story told in live action, but bottom line is there's a lot more creatively you can do with this story than anybody gives it credit for, with a lot of opportunities for some seriously expressive filmmaking. Not to mention, the Joker's origin story in Joker wasn't wholly original either. Taking cues from The Killing Joke with Arthur Fleck being a failed comedian, Gotham's very first Joker, Jerome Valeska, had a similar origin to Arthur Fleck, as he was abused by his sick mother, pushed over the edge and eventually became a cultural icon. And as well as that, we explored delusion with Arthur Fleck, a denial of who he is in the world around him, which is pretty similar to Jeremiah Valeska, Gotham's second Joker. And tell me the finale of the film didn't give you some serious Dark Knight Returns vibes, not to mention taking serious cues from Taxi Driver and other similar films. Put it this way, originality is not what makes Joker work for so many people. It is the character study of Arthur Fleck, the trials and the tribulations that ultimately led him down the path of becoming the Clown Prince of Crime. And at the end of the film, Arthur Fleck is in Arkham Mental Hospital, talking to a nurse that clearly just doesn't understand him, and he just says, "You wouldn't get it." So, what you could do for the sequel is, what if someone does get it? Imagine seeing a now fully formed Arthur Fleck Joker enacting his own torment upon somebody else and transforming them into him. And when I say fully formed Joker, I don't mean like white skin, red lips, and green hair. In fact, you could do this entire movie that I've got in mind with zero face paint on Arthur Fleck. I mean, he would be in Arkham for most of the film, so where would he even get the face paint to do that? I think we've all very much accepted that this Joker is not a bleached skin guy. This is not a traditional Joker. But I would like to see who he is at this stage, now that he's confident within himself, now that he's no longer insecure. We've seen him lash out, we've seen him strike back at society, but how about we see him become that sheer malevolent force of nature that we know the Joker to be, and become the secondary lead of somebody else's story? I really think that's the only way you can make more of Joaquin Phoenix's Joker work. So this time we would follow Harleen Quinzel, a doctor at the Arkham Mental Hospital, and she's been assigned to work with Arthur Fleck. But she has been warned of what a very curious case he is, and how dangerous he is, so naturally she prepares for this. She goes in to meet him, and he greets her with a joke. And while the joke isn't outright offensive, it's just kind of tasteless and unfunny. She kind of brushes this off though, because she's kind of prepared for the worst with him. They sit down and they talk, and this whole thing moves along pretty much as you would kind of expect a conversation between a doctor and Arthur Fleck to go. There's a lot of kind of benefit of the doubt going on, and she's just kind of humoring him, asking him very general questions. We'd have Harleen Quinzel kind of come away from this like, well, that wasn't so bad. This guy is obviously pretty messed up, but like at the end of the day, it's not like he tried to murder me. But obviously, I gotta keep my wits about me because he is at the end of the day a psychopath. Now, I like the idea that we'd explore a little bit of Harleen Quinzel's personal life. Perhaps she's engaged to a man that's actually good to her. Kind of back up the idea that she's got a lot going for her in her current state. Her life's kind of figured out, she's getting higher paychecks than ever before now that she's working for Arkham State Hospital. She's moving her way up the property ladder, she's got a house, she's got a mortgage. Things are working out for her, and then we cut to Monday, she's back at work, she's talking with the Joker, and we kind of show the passage of time a little bit moving through, as eventually, like a few days pass and Harley gets Arthur Fleck on the topic of his childhood and his mother, and this is where we kind of dip a little bit into Fleck's perspective, and kind of show some of the events of the previous film, but told in a very, very different way with a completely different meaning and outcome. To kind of complement the whole thing of the Joker being a very unreliable narrator in the previous film, he's just as unreliable here as he was before, but his stories are far more distorted than they were before, more nonsensical, to kind of show that he's come a little ways now with his psychopathy, to signify that this whole thing is getting a whole lot worse for him. But we'd see that the Joker actually starts becoming quite friendly and quite talkative with Harleen Quinzel, after she humors him and treats him with a degree of respect, no matter how false it may be. The Joker clearly appreciates this. We'd also established that Harleen's home life is not perfect. Her and her fiancé have a number of things that they don't quite agree on, and are not entirely compatible, but at the same time, there's a lot to lose, leading Harleen Quinzel to feeling somewhat isolated and quite lonely, so that the next Monday we see, when she returns to work, Arthur Fleck clocks this. As he talks about his experiences and his world, he begins to ask Harleen, how's hers? How does this relate to her? Is it similar? Has she ever experienced anything like this? Harleen obviously wants to keep her personal life kind of quiet, but Arthur has his ways of getting the truth out of her, easily manipulating conversation, to the point where he's asking her questions. Now, there is another opportunity for some expressive filmmaking in here, like what we saw with the first Joker film, in that when Harleen Quinzel is asking the questions to Arthur while her life is okay, while she's not being manipulated, we'd have the camera angle sort of a low down on her, but high angle shots on Arthur. As Arthur slowly but surely manipulates the conversation into Harleen talking about her personal life, we reverse this, just slowly but surely, until the Joker is the one being viewed at the low angle and Harleen is being viewed at the high angle, making a good use of the height of the shot. Harleen's conversations with Arthur would eventually become something of an escape, and she would see the same beauty in his mind that audiences saw during the first Joker movie. His ramblings and his perspectives would slowly start to make more sense, events and become more and more tragic. Now, what's happening here is not that he's talking more sense, it's just that we're slowly easing into her warped perspective of it. She was once the reliable narrator, she's now slipping up. Arthur is now, in her eyes, becoming the hero of his own story. And we'd see with that Harleen's perspective on things that are going on at home is slowly starting to warp even more. Her previous assertion as Doctor over Arthur has now become belief in Arthur and faith in Arthur. That faith soon becomes trust, and trust that the film and Harleen's perspective justifies to us, the audience. And it would soon start to seem like no one else actually cares for Harleen. Nobody asks her, how's work? How are things with Arthur? Nobody is checking in on her own well-being, and it's just left neglected. And because of that, she starts to need Arthur, because he's the only one that actually asks her how she's actually doing. And he's not just doing that because he cares, he's doing it because he knows how he can use it to manipulate her. Harleen would no longer believe that Arthur even needs to be in the mental institution, and would begin appealing for him. But it gets worse when trust becomes romanticism. She begins to view Arthur in a very romantic light, seeing him no longer as a sick person, seeing him no longer as even a person, but a guardian angel. We'd see Arthur slowly but surely become more and more charming. We'd see her bringing Arthur treats and gifts, but from her perspective, it's Arthur giving her those treats and gifts. And these sequences could just play out in the most WTF of ways. And worse yet, Arthur knows exactly what he's doing, as we do take the occasional dip into his perspective. The Joker philosophy becomes very clear to Harleen Quinzel. She murders her husband and begins trying to get Arthur out of the Arkham mental institution by force, resulting in her being investigated, and she loses permission to deal with Arthur Fleck. Now fully unauthorized, she still goes in to see him anyway, and Arthur persuades her that the only way they can be together is if he finds a way to get on the outside. It's also worth noting, as all of this goes on and as the film goes on, Arthur Fleck's sickly physique and long straggly hair would even out, to a point of actually looking quite healthy and well-groomed. This is just, of course, Harleen Quinzel's delusions. Harleen Quinzel would eventually be discharged from her job, no longer able to see the Joker, believed too mentally unstable to work there any longer. It would then be revealed that all this time her husband has only been trying to help her and reach out to her, but she's viewed it as hostility. Things are looking clearer to her now, but at this stage, madness is inevitable as she fantasizes of her and Arthur Fleck ballroom dancing. In a very elegant sequence set to what I have in mind right now is I Can't Help Falling in Love with You by Elvis Presley, but the version with the Philharmonic Orchestra accompanying it. It's got this very lavish sense to it, and I feel like Elvis definitely belongs somewhere in a Joker soundtrack because he's the king of rock and roll, and in some ways, the Joker is kind of the king of rock and roll when it comes to Gotham's crime underworld. Not to mention the lyrics would really nicely describe Harleen's feelings for the Joker, or it would be almost like they're coming from him to her. They definitely liked their sort of eloquent, almost sort of dancey moments in the first Joker film, and I feel like this would be a good way to reutilize that. Upon this, Harleen Quinzel would go on a murderous rampage, breaking into the Arkham mental institution and breaking her Mr. J out. With the place surrounded though, the only way out is the roof, and there is nowhere to go but down. Shoot to kill permissions are granted to the police surrounding the area, and Arthur tells Harleen that there is only one way they can get out of this alive, promising her that she is far stronger than she realizes, far more courageous, and that the two of them together have to take a leap of faith. So together, the Joker and Harleen prepare to jump. But as Harleen jumps off, Arthur Fleck doesn't. Arthur Fleck has gone from a fantasy to finally a reality, with Harleen crashing down, breaking many of her bones, but only just surviving, while Arthur laughs. He heads to another end of the rooftop, sees some trash bags below, and jumps, landing on them. Harleen Quinzel is arrested and taken to hospital. Arthur Fleck lays in the trash bags, laughing to himself, anticipating his next move. The film would end with Harleen Quinzel in the White Room talking to the same doctor that was talking to Arthur at the end of the Joker movie, and would end in almost the exact same way. So kind of the bottom line is that Arthur Fleck is trash. My kind of idea for the title for this film, I'm currently just calling it Toxic Fantasy, because it almost kind of translates to Mad Love. It needs a lot of elaboration, And in terms of, like, songs on the soundtrack, like how the Joker uses a lot of familiar pop songs of the time to kind of set the stage for these characters, I definitely have kind of Madonna in mind for a lot of the Harley Quinn side of the soundtrack, and Elvis in mind for a lot of the Joker's side of the soundtrack. Kind of sees how Harleen views herself and how she views the Joker within that. My idea currently has no room for any kind of jester outfit for Harleen Quinzel. In fact, there's kind of no intention of even calling her Harley Quinn at this point. Maybe it's something that Arthur could make a one-off joke about. I just feel that if they want to do a sequel to Joker with Joaquin Phoenix returning to the role, I just feel like this is the only way they can really make that work, while keeping in with the core appeal of what made the first movie work for so many people. I definitely feel it hits the same notes, but without being quite as, I guess, astute with its messages and its social commentary. It's kind of there, but it's a little more subtle, in the regard that nobody checks up on Harleen Quinzel when she's working with a murderous psychopath, and how she's not seen as fit to be inside a mental institution when she's not mentally well enough to work there. I think there's kind of an irony to that, and I think it does give that good bottom line that we need, that the Joker is still ultimately a terrible thing. But what do you guys think? Comment below and discuss, and as always, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like it, don't forget to hit subscribe, hit the like button, and in the description below are links to my Patreon and my Discord. This video is brought to you by Zentai for all your cosplay needs. Link is in the description below, and they are very cool and good. Cosplay your favorite characters or send in one of your own designs. Affordable prices and very high quality. Made to order and made to measure. But most of all, made to be heckin' awesome. If you couldn't already tell. Guys, can you believe where we are now and where we started? How long ago it was that Channel Pup, or Channel Go even, came about? Because it really wasn't that long when you think about it. Can you believe the amount of support I've received from this community, from all of you subscribing to the channel and everything? It's unreal. It's a dream come true for me. But behind the YouTubers you watch usually comes a bit of a truth, is that they're often dirt poor. Now, I've had the good fortune of being able to grow this YouTube channel and hopefully turn it into a career, but I'm gonna need a little bit of help along the way to even the odds to make ends meet, so that I can use all of the possible time that I have to make videos for you guys, as opposed to doing something mundane for barely enough money to make it worth its while. I've done all that. I've lived that life. The fact is, together we all built Channel Pup. We made it what it is today, and I want to keep the ball rolling on that. I don't ever want to stop doing this, because this is the most gratifying job I've ever had, and I think the most pleasurable hobby anyone could ever have. I don't take any of the support that I receive from you guys for granted, but if in any way you're wondering if maybe you could do a little more for the channel even, then I want to direct you to the Patreon link in the description below. It would mean the world to me to have your support via Patreon. It can help me to make ends meet. It can help me to better my content. It can help me to have more time to really work on this stuff. But you know what? I'm not just going to take your support and run. No way, Jose. In the Patreon, you can access exclusive videos via the Pups Project Room playlist, where you can see different projects that I've been working on or have worked on that have either not made it to YouTube for general viewing or have been cancelled, or, well, you can get a little view of the process that goes behind the Channel Pup videos and productions. As well as that, you tend to get advanced previews of the bigger Channel Pup projects, our tentpole event projects. If you've seen Marvelous Tales of Spider-Man, you'll be aware that that was released on the Patreon first, and 20 days later approximately was released for general viewing on YouTube. That's not the only time I'm gonna do this. But you know what? If you can't do the Patreon, or are just not interested in doing the Patreon, I fully understand. Like, it's still a big ask in my opinion. And what counts most is your support. So, as always, thank you so much, guys. I've been Channel Pup, and I will think of a better catchphrase next time. Now please leave me alone!